Sunan Ibn Majah contains narrations of the type that you find in Bukhari Muslim, and some of which you do not. Narration 529 was about the nomad that came to the masjid, and at the masjid he supplicated to God that he, Muhammad, and nobody else be forgiven. Muhammad said, "You've put a restriction on something that's is vast," and he actually afterwards started to urinate in the masjid, and Muhammad corrected him, saying that this is a place for prayer and remembering God. It's not for that. And then he ordered water to be used to, clean up. And other narrations indicate that the crowd wanted to violently stop the man, and Muhammad let the guy finish in the corner there, and then corrected the situation, because there really are people that ignorant. I heard a lawsuit. Some guy was urinating in a church, and his family was trying to sue to make sure that he was still allowed to go to the church, even though he was urinating in the church. In Islam, if somebody is insane or to that degree or something, then, one is to keep them away, because certain obligations are obviously not upon them at that point. Narration 531. There was a woman that had a long hem, and she said, "Well, what if I walk through a dirty place?" And Muhammad said, "Well, don't worry, there's purification in what comes after that it drags through." Narration 553 said that Muhammad put a limit of wiping over the sock or shoe to 3 days for the traveler, and could have made it 5 if there was continual questioning about it. But of course he wasn't, it's what he was sanctioned to do. Narration 535 regards a man who says that he came out when he was in a state of keep away from, he had sex with his wife, and he he left and got the bath, and then Muhammad asked what the issue was, and he said, I was unclean, and he said that the Muslim does not become unclean, and by that, of course, meant that you can is that sex does not make one dirty if one is a Muslim. 530, because one hasn't violated anything. 534 is the same sort of narration, except that the term is believer. And 685 is that to miss the late afternoon prayer is like being cheated out of your family and your wealth. The next narration relates that during a war, the polytheist had kept them from saying their late afternoon prayer until after the sunset, and this was responded to by the Prophet's supplication that may God fill their graves with the hellfire and their houses. And 687 says that Muhammad used to say his evening prayer at a time where you could still tell where the arrows would land if you shot them. Narration 663 indicates that when you're taking a full bath and you notice that you missed a spot, you can just ring over to rinse off that spot And narration 661 reminds us that the whole same gender thing doesn't apply when you're seeing the nakedness of someone, is that you're not supposed to do that. And by nakedness, it's the word aura indicates that, from the male, it's the knees to the lower belly, and, from the navel to the knees should be completely covered. The women, at least that likewise. Now, there are different situations outside of that, how much is to be covered before any one particular person. But in the Bible, it's the same term. But of course, the Bible tends to use the term bashed or shame or something like that to refer to the nakedness. And why are we shaming the bodies? Modesty and good behavior and all that? Yeah, sure. Recommend that. But shaming people for their body? No. People being ashamed of being seen or what they